In today's video, we're taking a look at large dent damage on the passenger side front wing of this BMW X3. So it's a big old dent. It's taken in the kind of framework. You can see it tucked in away from where it sits from the door edge. Right down at the bottom, we've got this nice big crown, a huge great big dent running up the wing, that main kink across the body line just around that side indicator, and then again we've got another body line. Most of the damage has been contained to below the body line. There's just that small little dink at the top, which may or may not have been caused at the same time. So this damage was apparently caused by a fight that was happening next to the vehicle, and apparently somebody was thrown headfirst into the panel, which is why it's caused such a big large dent. The upside of it being a human that's hit this is they're not generally got sharp edges on. So thankfully the paintwork is still intact, and whilst it's big, it should be a fairly straightforward repair. So I'm going to take you through step by step my approach to repairing this damage. So I'm going to start this repair by warming up the panel. Now I'm using an infrared heat lamp, but this is because I have one due to also carrying out some paint repairs. You do not need to rush out and go and get an infrared lamp. You can still do this with the same process with a hot air gun or hair dryer. I'm going to start with the Glexo cold glue. Now the first thing I want to do is see if I can pull out some of the soft damage. So you can see me here just working the glue, and that is just to make sure it's nice and kind of fresh, warm it up a little bit, and that will really help with getting it to adhere to the panel. And you can see where that frame is tucked in from the door. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of see if I can get the frame to line back up again, and I'm going to start here and just see what movement it gets. You could start by doing some tapping down, releasing some tension, but I think from here I'm going to bring out the bulk of it and just start to release some of the tension. And if you watch closely as I start to do some of the pull, you can see the entire panel move, and then you'll watch some of that dent pop out to the left hand side or the front. So just here you saw it just pop out. So that's massively reduced some of the tension. There's still definitely lots of crowns and tension surrounding the dent, but already it's just starting to bring out the kind of back frame line of that wing, and my main focus is trying to get that to line up flush with the door panel front edge. So now that I've released that initial kind of main tension point, I can reassess the panel and decide my next move. Now, looking across this wing, there's quite a big juicy crown across the bottom section. In fact, there's about 2 or 3 crowns together. So I'm going to start by using this crow carb tap down. Now these are great because they have that little lever tip on the end, but I want it to be just a little bit softer. So I'm just going to apply a couple of strips of tape, and that allows me to kind of get a bit more of a damper on the tip. I'm still going to hit it fairly hard to move the metal, but I'm reducing that risk a little bit further by putting tape on the end, reducing that risk of putting small dents in the middle of my tension points or my crowns. So as we take an overview of the panel, really kind of work around, and we can now focus on the upper section of the wing. So there's quite a lot of tension here. I thought most of the damage was contained below the body line. Well, in fact, most of it is, but it has definitely taken some of the impact and some of that tension above the body line too. So you can see those lines pinching together. There's a kind of low to the left, but to the right of that low, you've got the main crown, and it comes up to the body line and goes just over the body line. So just here, we've got tension that sits above the body line. So all of this area is going to be worked out. And just as I did with the kind of primary crown at the lower section of the wing, I'm using that same tap down method and just slowly, methodically working across that whole tense crowned area. So I'm going to switch to hot glue. I want to continue to see if I can pull out the frame. At this stage, I've still not got a bar behind this section of the panel. I'm really hoping to be able to pull it out with glue. So I'm using quite a big tab. It's larger than the kind of low area, but I'm using loads of glue on here. And that really gives a nice big kind of area to pull on. But by putting a lot of glue, it means that I'm definitely getting into the depth of the dent or the low spot. So I'm right in there on the lowest part of that crease. And my goal here again is to pull out the frame of that panel. It still sits slightly in, maybe a few mil from the door. So I'd really like to pull out that and straighten the frame out. That's one of the key things that someone's going to spot when they check the repair once you're finished. They look around the panel and it is so obvious if a panel sits out of alignment. Now I'm choosing to use my robo lifter here. What I want to try and control is how much of that panel I am lifting up. So before with the slide hammer, I was pulling kind of a big area or a big mass. With the robo lifter, with these feet, you can really condense that down so that you focus on a small amount of area to apply that pressure. And just here you can see it's starting to pull the panel. And if you watch that gap between the wing and the door, it is slowly just starting to pull it back into place. It doesn't lift it fully, but it does start to help to get the shape back. So we're not a million miles away from having this wing frame match up with the door frame. If ever we're working on a dent and the low just isn't budging or it's being stubborn, there's a good chance we still need to release a bit of tension. So as the dent has pushed the metal up, it can only go as far as that body line, at least to a certain degree. So there's a lot of tension that's hidden or almost hidden across this body line section. So if it was a flat panel, it would have gone right up to the top and stopped at this line. But because we've got this body line running through, that impact has pushed the metal up and then it's stopped here. So it's kind of captured it or frozen it in its motion. Be really careful when you're going through these holes, because you don't want to lever off the panel. Normally you would go in and lever, but we're levering off my hand so that I'm not damaging the panel. And also, instead of using that pushing motion, I'm actually pulling it. So I'm pulling the bar back towards myself. So threading it in like a hook and then pulling it back. So I'm currently working towards the back edge of the line that surrounds the side indicator, and just again pushing and focusing on some of those lows there. But I'm also going to come in from underneath, so able to get a bar in. I've pulled away just part of the lining on this. On this model, they're like a felt lining that I can just get behind without having to remove all of the kind of plastic rivets that they have on these BMW arches. So I've switched back to my root beer tap down just to allow me a little bit more precision in tapping down some of the high spots that I've created during that repair process. And although the majority of the dent is now being removed and that shape is back into the panel, there is still kind of a sign of that big low that came from the top end all the way down to the bottom. So just going back to the cold glue, I'm just trying to lift out some of that low to reduce the amount of pushing work I might have to do with my tool from behind. So I'm working relatively quickly with the cold glue and just trying to lift a little bit of a low, one bit at a time. So coming towards the end of this repair, I've now got my double bend bar, the long extension piece with an R4 tip and that red cherry cap on the end. And I just need to get to the very back edge of that frame. There's a limit to what I could pull out on the glue, so this really just gives me the extra edge for that finishing touch. So overall, I'm really pleased with how this repair is coming out. I've taken out the bulk of the damage, I've got the shape back, and it's just onto those finishing little touches. I've got that frame line back so that the wing panel meets the door, and that is all sitting flush back where it should be. So as we take a slightly closer look, I've set my line board up across that body line and around the side repeater. Now it's a difficult part of the panel because you've got a few different body lines, a lot of shape to it, but also you've got the way the panel concaves, convexes around the kind of natural curve of the panel. But I've set the line board up, you can just see there's a tiny bit of texture, but without that line board there, the panel has come out really well. So as I say, I'm really pleased with the overall repair process. And if you'd like to watch the full broken down detailed tutorial, you can do so at learnpdronline.com. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, you can give us a thumbs up and of course subscribe to our channel. So I'm Tom with Learn PDR Online. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.